welcome to the Bible Guy, a continuation of our series on the Gospel of Mark. Today we reach Mark chapter 6, and the question is really for us is, how do we respond when things go wrong? So when things go wrong, that's what we're going to see today in Mark chapter 6. It really is a constant theme of things going wrong. As I fix my heating again here. When things go wrong, Mark chapter 6, it starts with Jesus saying his hometown of Nazareth, that he went to his hometown. But what he said was, a prophet is often without honour in his own hometown, because in this particular place he couldn't do any miracles because of their lack of faith. And actually says that even though they seen what he was doing, it says in verse 3, and they took offence at him. Took offence at Jesus. He couldn't do any miracles. Jesus warned his followers. Often this happens, a prophet's without honour in his own hometown. He then goes on to send the 12 out 2 by 2, sending them out to preach the word, to heal of demons and heal of sicknesses. But he did also warn them. He said, look, if you're rejected in a place, move on and shake the dust off your feet. Just that acknowledgement again of if people don't welcome you. Just like I wasn't welcomed here, this is how you need to respond. And who knows, maybe that's a little bit of what Jesus himself just done in dealing with Nazareth, where he was from. We then go on to a horrible moment in the scriptures, in the gospel here of Mark. John the Baptist, who was in prison, is beheaded. King Herod had him beheaded at the request of Herodias, his daughter. A terrible situation. John the Baptist brought out and beheaded in prison. Horrendous story, incredibly full of gory in this story that really strikes at your heart when you read it for the first time. Certainly not my first time reading it, but it does really strike you when you sit and think about what happened. But then you think about how Jesus would have responded to this, given his mission, and the questions that could have brought up in Jesus. He then goes on and apostles gather around Jesus in verse 30, reported them all they had done and taught. And because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, it says, he said to them, verse 31, come with me by yourself to a quiet place and get some rest. So John the Baptist had died. Jesus no doubt heard about it. He then had his followers coming to him. Crowds were gathering around him. I mean, he couldn't even grieve. He was so full, he was surrounded by people that he thought, look, let's go away. We can't even eat here. Let's go off to a quiet place and get some rest. So what happens? They go away by boat, but many who seen them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed, he saw such a large crowd that he was fed up, that he was more annoyed than ever. No, it says when he saw such a large crowd, he had compassion on them. They're like sheep without a shepherd, so he began teaching them many things. And then he went on and fed the 5,000 because they also were without food. And you think, oh my goodness, Jesus faced this now after John the Baptist being beheaded, trying to get off for a bit of peace. Then even more people follow him, and then he has to look after all them. And then what Jesus does, which we'll see in another wee moment, but the next incident here is Jesus walking on water because there's another storm. There's lots of needs, and then now there's a storm. Jesus walks past in the water and ends up calming down the storm. But it's another incident of things going wrong, of like being rejected, Jesus warning them of further rejection. John the Baptist gets beheaded. Many people are coming to get healed and they couldn't even eat. And then the storm comes. And you're like, this is not how I would have wrote this story. Why does all these things go wrong? One thing after another. But it's just two things I wanted to point out today in terms of learning about how to deal with it when things go wrong. I don't know about you, but when things go wrong, I have any number of different reactions to that. It can be frustration. It can be just get more insular. I can get more impatient. I can just get more hopeless, more faithless. All kinds of reactions. But just two things to point out today in terms of how the disciples responded and then how Jesus responded. The disciples responded, and what we can learn from them, for me, is they heard of Jesus describing rejection and that it's to be expected. They then hear about John the Baptist. They then see all these people with needs. But in every situation, they put their trust in Jesus. They listen to him. Okay, this is the way it's going to be. Let's follow that whenever we do it. Go out 2 by 2. Oh, there's people need fed. How are we going to feed them, Jesus? Let's do it Jesus' way. We're in the boat. There's a storm. There's Jesus. I need to trust in Jesus. Put my trust in Jesus. So this is what we learn from him. His instructions, his wisdom, his concern for them, and his power to help them. We can be like that too when we face things going wrong. We can then trust in Jesus' wisdom and Jesus' instruction to us through his word. We can trust in his concern for us, but also in the storm incident, his power to help. We can learn from the disciples' reaction to these troubles in following exactly what they did. And the second thing, the thing that really stood out to me about Jesus here, in terms of all the things, if you like, from our vantage point, thinking that they're going wrong, what do we learn from what Jesus done in Mark chapter 6? Well, the first thing to say is he knew what lay ahead. He understood that he would be rejected in his own hometown, and then he also predicted that the disciples themselves would face rejection. So he kind of knew what lay ahead. So it wasn't idealizing the future. So it's good to kind of think, this is likely what lies ahead. So I kind of learned that from Jesus. What else? Well, he went with the moment. So even when things were going wrong, and then more people turn up when he tries to get away, he kind of just goes with the moment. He trusts in God. He provides for the people. He sees that they're without help. He doesn't separate his time out. This is my time. This is my time to be in the ministry, if you like. He goes with the Spirit. But the key thing that really stood out to me in Jesus dealing with these trials, when you think of how he felt with John the Baptist being beheaded, whenever he can't even get time to eat, tries to get away for a bit of peace, and then more people follow him. Can you imagine what that's like if you have a headache, you're tired, you try to get time on your own, only to be faced with even more needs? Makes me shiver thinking about it. But in this instance, what do we see? And I didn't read it a moment ago, but you can see it. Whenever they fed the 5,000, just after this, in verse 45, before the storm comes, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, what did he do now? He went up on a mountainside to pray. After he tried to get away, people followed him, more crowds, more needs, more time spent helping them, fed them. Then he went off. They're about to meet the storm, but before that comes, what does Jesus do again? He goes back to his original plan, up on the mountainside to pray. And not just anywhere to pray, on a mountainside. Maybe he really wanted it this time to not be followed so much. But I think I really learned from this, Jesus, Son of God in the flesh, needed this time desperately. As troubles increased, as things went wrong, maybe that's from our vantage point, things seem to be going wrong. As times get more difficult, Jesus seeks time with his Father. When that's interrupted, he seeks it again. It's interrupted, he seeks it again. Sometimes I have troubles in my day. I do seek God wholeheartedly, only to then face another trouble. And I think, well, what I learned from Jesus here, go again. Go again. Go again. Keep seeking the Father who loves you, who will help you. And essentially that's what the disciples did, in that the way they looked to Jesus was the way that Jesus looked to the Father. So hopefully something's helped us in Mark 6 today. When things go wrong, see what we can learn from the disciples and learn from Jesus. We'll be back soon with Mark 7. If you'd like this, hit the like button. Please share this on for other people to benefit as well. Please subscribe to That Bible Guy, and let's get his word out there.